Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to talk about My Hero Academia, chapter 225. Here we are, here we go, let's go. Okay, so this is coming out on a Saturday, hopefully. Friday was Easter Friday thing, festivities and all that, so my time kind of got drained through there. So now here we are. If anyone celebrates Easter, I hope you guys have a happy Easter. Otherwise, happy Saturday and happy weekend to everyone else. So, this chapter. As you guys recall, last week I said I was going to withhold judgment because I wasn't feeling what the guys were doing last week. But this week, largely, I'm very happy. Like, a lot of my concerns from last week are pretty much answered in the first couple of pages for this week's chapter. I'm very happy that it has devolved into a melee and that the melee looks way more impressive than what it looked like last week. I love that one panel of Redestro narrating, and then we transition over to just the chaos of the scene going on in the main town. I love it. I'm totally into it. And the stuff that Curious did in the chapter, she's going after Toga with her entourage. I also love that. I love that this is how it's going. I love that if we are going to go down this route, I like that at least they are using their resources to their maximum effective value. I think this is really good. I think it's good on the author. I'm pretty happy. Overall, pretty happy with this. You know, and at the end of the day, I would say, like, you know, I feel like you guys could probably hang back first before going in. I don't feel the guys should be the first line of defense. But given how much people they have, now we're like getting into that territory of saying, like, well, realistically, given how many people you have at your disposal and you're actually using them, I could see totally why you would want to be at the front lines. So that's fine. I'm overall happy. I think the author has done a good job showing the chaos. Although, you know, there's still like little things that we can talk about here in terms of if we want to get a little bit critical about it. You know, there's things that we can talk about. First one I'll start off with, which I think is just like a really nice point for the author. Usually I find that it's kind of hard to make like a compelling multiple people versus one person type battle sequence because in a lot of manga or anime, well, not so much in anime, because anime can make fight scenes more compelling just by the nature of a constantly flowing scene. But you know, sometimes you just end up having this scene where like a bunch of nobodies just all attack at the same time, and you get a panel of all their attacks landing at the same time. And you know, at those points, it's not the same as, say, like, you know, in Dragon Ball Super with Goku and Vegeta when they tag team against one person. But what I'm trying to say for this one, for Hero Academia, I think the author did a good job of having the attacks keep landing. I think the author did a good job of having someone on Toga the majority of the time. Mind you, there are still moments where people aren't really attacking Toga, but that's fine. Given that this is all probably happening so quickly in real time, and then the panels are just giving more time, I think overall it was cool. I do want to see if the author can do like some really compelling like battle choreography with large groups instead of just depicting attacks landing and people rushing towards her. But this chapter so far is really good. One other point that does come up though is we do have to like ask that question, well, to what degree do numbers matter? This week we find out, well, these numbers might be a bit more valuable than we expected. There are people here who are legitimately combat trained. So that what that ends up doing is that if the League of Villains is able to handle this situation and come out like more or less like on par with this, like there's no real way around it. You've got to admit that the League of Villains, they are like worth a dozen people. Like each one of them is worth a dozen people. Like Spinner is still involved in the battle. He is still doing fine even though he has an onslaught of attacks coming his way, right? So to some degree, numbers here, they're making things challenging. But by the end of this, if Toga wins her fight, for instance, like you come out with the idea, well, Toga is worth 30 people, more or less, because she is able to take out 30 people. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see like how this goes by the end of this. I want to see the body counts. That's what I'm pretty interested in now. I'm impressed with the numbers that they got, and I'm impressed with the way that the author is handling all these numbers on screen. I do want to see how the villains are going to turn out at the end of this. We still have that prediction, or not prediction, but that warning that the League of Villains gets destroyed. But, you know, I'm thinking there's some foul play with the wording there. We'll have to see. That leads me into the next point, and that's mostly about Toga. Actually, should we talk about Redestro first? Now, we'll leave Redestro for the end. So Toga, she has a lot of things going on in the chapter. Between her interactions with good old Curious and the information, a little bit of a flashback on her. A lot of things have come up. And, you know, in some way, I'm a little bit disappointed. But disappointed in the sense that I had a personal theory about Toga that I'm seeing fall apart here. And I'm not happy because I really wanted that theory to be true. It was just like, to some degree, I was starting to question whether or not Toga was actually a young lady. Because Toga's shown that she can overlap transformations. For instance, when she was in the exam with Izuku for the provisional license, she transformed from Ochako to Kami, right? So it said that Toga can have one transformation go to another instead of just reverting back to her original form. What I was getting at was that, to some degree, I was starting to think that maybe Toga herself wasn't a schoolgirl. Like, I thought maybe Toga could be an old lady who was just masquerading as a schoolgirl. So that's what I was thinking. So then this chapter comes along and you have that flashback. You have that nice little metaphor of the mask coming down as she watched some guy that looked like Izuku all beat up and bloody. You know, I still think there's like some possibility for some kind of weird thing to be going on that we're not able to see fully. Like, there could be some other angle to that story. But I do feel like that theory I had is kind of falling apart there. Another thing that I'm going to throw out there is that I didn't make the connection of Toga to a vampire. And it's especially like silly when you see the end and you see her with her fangs all out and all that. It's just like in Hero Academia, the person that I associated to vampires was Blood King, or Vlad, you know, the teacher for Class 1B. Specifically because his power revolves around blood. And secondly, his name is Vlad. Everyone knows Dracula is based on Vlad the Impaler. So it's like, he was the most obvious connection to a vampire. And then he had his best friend being Hound Dog, who is obviously a connection to the Wolfman. So right there you had the Wolfman and Dracula, right? So I never made the connection. But yeah, Toga very much is a vampire. Like, it's actually kind of funny. I found that funny that I didn't make that connection in my head before. I really should have. Anyway, all that aside, there is something else that the author does during this chapter that I think is very important that we all actually keep in mind. There we go, my words. The thing with Toga, aside from all the information that Curious gives us about her, that she was a person, she was that went to school, she had a normal life, she was the eldest daughter of a certain family. There was something else that Curious did during the chapter that's really important because it is a plot point about Toga that has been brought up before. And that's specifically this panel right here. Curious says, "Your agility speaks for itself. An everyday murderer wouldn't have such impressive survival skills. I'd love to know the details about how you learned them." This is pretty critical because this has been something that's been brought up before. We got this from Izuku back when he was curious about where Kami got her moves, or at least Toga in Kami's face got her moves. The author's bringing it up back here. I think this is an obvious tell that the author wants us, or is priming us to have a reveal based around this information, because Toga's abilities, or at least her physical abilities, are a pretty big question mark. And especially when you bring in now this narrative about her being a middle school girl that went missing at the end of the graduation ceremony, it's like, okay, yeah, what happened here? Where did she get these skills from? As Curious says, this isn't normal for her to have that level of skill. So I'm pretty interested. I think this is important. When is the author gonna reveal the origin of Toga's skill? Honestly, I have no idea. This is something that the author could be putting off till later. I will let you guys know, in case you don't know, the author has gone on record and he did say that Toga along with Tsuyu are characters who he had to look at again, because after seeing how popular they were, he had to kind of augment their role in the story. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's effectively what he said, that he had to make some changes to Toga and Tsuyu to give them more screen time in the future. So we might be, he's clearly like pushing us along this line that he does want to explore this aspect of Toga. I just don't know when we're gonna get it. So with that aside, one thing that I will say is the flashback, I find it really interesting. Like I said before, I like the metaphor of a mask that falls away. It's just that flashback, or even the information that this person is feeding us, I think there's still enough room for weird maneuvers to be occurring within it. Like, is the person who had the mask chipped away Toga herself? Well, I think probably, because this mask chipping away, that feels like something that could work with Toga's current character. But is Toga different than the person that went missing? Like, you know, is the person with the mask actually present time Toga, or was Toga Himiko someone else that this masked person took over? It looks, I'm not too sure, because the hairstyle looks like it's proper Toga, but it's weird. I think the author has enough space here where he could go for a kind of mind screw if he really wanted to. Also, was anyone else thrown off by the guy that looked like Izuku in that panel? Like, I was kind of thrown off by it, so I found it funny. All things considered, I think this was a pretty cool exploration on Toga, but I'm not in a position where I can make any solid deductions, just because I need more information. I think that the author's playing games, man. I don't think there's anything straightforward about this. So I do like what happened, and I do like how Toga ended off the chapter with her with what she was saying and her nonsense and all that. And I do want to say, like, this final shot of Toga, it reminds me a lot of a character from DeadTube. DeadTube is like this really gory graphic manga. I'll just show you a face of the girl from there, and it's just, I see that girl's face, and this isn't the best comparison, but, and I see Toga's face, and it's just like, yeah, this feels like a shot out of DeadTube. If anyone reads DeadTube, like, just say it down in comments. Is Toga's face, would it not fit in DeadTube? I think it would. So overall, I think Toga had a pretty strong chapter here, and I'm pretty happy with it. Now, let's see, anything else that I want to add? Oh yeah, right. Reed Destro. Reed Destro opened up the chapter. I thought that was pretty neat. He was doing his little villain monologue, and he came up, or he did an analysis on the Nomus. And the thing that caught me the most surprised there was that he was able to point out that Dobby said that he was retrieving the black one. And this always throws me off. Like, I have to go back and look at the chapter, but I thought Dobby was not close enough to earshot, or to, like, for the cameras to pick anything up. But I guess he was, or, you know, these guys have their technology that they can do things with. But that part was the part that just made me go, what? Really? You heard that? But it overall, I did like his introduction into the scene, or into the rest of the chapter. I found it a pretty good opening, and it's just that one weird part. I think I like his banter too. Him pointing out that he had one more reason than Girin. I like the character. I can't wait till Shigaraki gets to him, though, because right there, like, the author is telling us, well, here is where this man is making a mistake. He specifically is thinking that the Nomu are the ammunition that the League of Villains has, and Gigantomachia is like the existence that counters that point. So that's already like the spot that this guy isn't predicting. Which is really interesting, given that they were able to track where they were, but I guess maybe they don't have satellite technology on the villains. Or sorry, not satellite, video recording technology or something. Maybe there's just some kind of weird timing there that they couldn't see Gigantomachia. So I'm ready to see Redestro's fall here. Like, he's set himself up. He's given himself, or he's telegraphed where his weakness lies, or where the blind spot is. So I'm very interested in that. I want to see him cry. Anyway, overall, I think it's a solid chapter. I think Toga had some great scenes in it. I love seeing the melee. I think this is really good. I like that the author is taking advantage of this giant army of people. I love the various little quirks that are being thrown around. Overall, let me know what you thought down below, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.